So welcome back to DevSecOps Talks with Paulina.
Yes,
Andrey.
I just jumped in there, right?
We managed.
Yes,
Yeah.
we managed. So what is the topic for today? What are we talking about?
Paulina.
So we have 2 episodes upcoming with European cloud providers guests, and we want to lay down a bit background beforehand about what are current trends, what do we see as the professionals in this world, what's going on with cloud a bit now, and trends, and what people are looking for now, right now when they're looking into where they should host their applications or systems or organizations.
Yes. And you meet a lot of clients, right? So what do you see as trend? Do you see them like you're running in a cloud provider and you want to go back to bare metal? Or you want to go into service provider? Like there's so many different levels now. You just like, it's not bare metal and cloud. There are things in between, right? You can get the Kubernetes cluster, you can get like an app service. What are the alternatives you can go, for example?
So at least from my experience recently, I see more that they want to go more locally, so they want to have more control over where they host the application. So it can be the local cloud provider, as we are based in Europe, like European cloud provider. I see quite a few customers asking about this. I see some moving partially to their own servers or to servers hosted within their own countries. And I can see also some of the European organizations also considering this move within next few years. So I can see that there is at least trend to trying to get more control over your infrastructure and data. Where is it hosted and what's going on with it? With the car.
But are you going to like smaller hosting providers, like for example, I'm based in Stockholm, or going to smaller providers in Stockholm, or the big European one like Hetzner, the French one, which has 3 letters that is called
OVF.
OVF, exactly.
They
are big. There are some like European, like a little bit bigger. I mean, Hetzner has in US as well, big data centers, right? Sorry, do you see the trend like when we're talking local providers? Are we talking?
Maybe, Mattias, sorry for interrupting. Maybe we should discuss why suddenly those discussions are happening. And first of all, not to be political and lay a little bit of historical overview. It's not the first year that those talks are happening. It's actually, I think it started 4 to 5 years ago. Like we've been in this all for globalization era, which seems to be coming to an end. And initially, the talk starts to happen, at least I start to notice them, when US changed the law that they would compel. It was like the US-Europe data exchange law.
Yes.
But also they had a law that now can compel US-based companies to disclose the information, which means that technically if there is some European state or uses AWS or any other like GCP, Azure cloud provider from US, Oracle for that matter, then they might be compelled to disclose the information. And the response to that was, at least from AWS side, I don't really know for the rest of the cloud providers, but for AWS, I believe we even had episode on that. They released a number of features, like for instance, customer-owned key material, so the customers can bring their own key material to create encryption keys, and then AWS will have no access to the key material, which means that they cannot decrypt theoretically. Then AWS is building something that they call sovereign cloud, which will be based in Germany, employ European citizens. So it will be the company on its own, not affiliated. Well, it will be a subsidiary of the US company, but it will be a separate company, which will not be under the US jurisdiction. So like those concerns would not apply. So like I think AWS seeing where the head is blowing, where the wind is blowing, so they're playing ahead, trying to stay ahead and have some solutions available for the Europeans. And it's actually not the first time they're doing it. If you know,
I think they have also GovCloud, and they have something in Ireland. They even tried to recruit me. I still see organizations which are based on AWS considering getting out of AWS to European cloud. Even with all the moves which AWS is going with.
To finish my thought, so what AWS had, you're exactly right. So they have a GovCloud. So like if you imagine the AWS IRN, like the resource identifier, they will have partitions in there. And usually you would have AWS, like that's the primary AWS partition. You have Gov partition for the GovCloud in US. You also have your AWS China, which is being run by the local Chinese company, and it's totally separate from AWS. It's actually not the first time that AWS is doing something like that, and those concerns are not new. I mean, China been doing that for a long time. Europe was like a little bit more open towards using US tech, but there are a lot of talks now with relations cooling, at least with this administration, that Europe should get more self-sufficient. And I know it's not only when it comes to the clouds. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, but there is like EU OS project where like European Union is trying to run a pilot project where they would use Linux, I believe Debian-based, Fedora-based. No, it was Fedora-based Linux, which might be the same. I don't really know. And they're going to be using that for the government entities. So they will try to cut their reliance on Windows, which I think is a really good idea. I mean, like Windows is horrible.
Finally, the day of the Linux desktop is coming, right? Well, every year we say that, like now it's going to be the year.
Basically what they're saying is they're not trying to make it a consumer-focused operating system. They actually want to run a pilot to have it for the municipality, for the police station, for the public sector. So it will be like an operating system for the public sector. China already did that. I know Russia did that. So like trying to jump from Windows, and I mean, it makes sense. Like Windows is full of bugs, and why would you keep paying money for it if you can get something relatively for free?
Starting ranting here on Windows. So back to the question, Paulina. You say that a lot of clients want to pull out from a cloud provider and go to European cloud provider. But what are the European cloud providers? I mean, which companies are you talking to, and what do they offer in comparison to AWS? We know AWS, right?
You have Scaleway, you have, we mentioned, I think, OVF, we mentioned other one, ElasticX. I have very bad memory for this one.
Elasticsearch, I think is another one. Yeah, there are
Hetzner as well.
Hetzner, of course. Yeah.
Let's be clear that not every cloud provider, let's call them infrastructure provider.
Exactly what I wanted to come to, right?
Because you could have Mattias Cloud provider. Like if you're in Järfälla, Stockholm, Mattias Cloud is for you.
Yeah, it is. Local.
In his garage. So then you get this server, like with a Hetzner, right? You get a VPS, virtual private server, and then you do everything yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's similar to what was beforehand when I was starting in whole DevOps and so on world. We had to, order server 3 months in advance in the IBM data center, and then we were getting particular server we need to take care of, and not really. They didn't do much without it besides plugging the hardware or changing the hardware once for a few years. So it's not all the same. So it's also depending what people are looking for. They're gonna need to look into different options as well. I think one more point I wanted to add for why also there's maybe bigger focus right now for it. It's also training AI models and LLM models on the data of people, and we have a few quite loud cases of not good or legal use of data for training LLMs and cloud and AIs and so on. So I think that's other reason why companies and organizations are concerned about moving data and having more control over their own data than beforehand.
I think GDPR might have been the first driver of it, because then you needed to know where your data is.
Yeah.
And now there are more and more local legislation when it comes to data privacy. So there is that.
Yeah, and I can also say that that is a Swedish AI coming out today called
Swedish AI.
Called Berget. It's like the mountain on Swedish. Berget.ai, you can check it out. I think it's announced today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just like AI provider requesting some models, stuff like that.
It has its own module.
To say, to Paulina points, it's not only data, it's actually cheaper. I mean, I heard a couple of people saying, like, we see those GPU-enabled VPSs on Hetzner, super cheap compared to the AWS. And like, if you look at them, it's considerable difference in price.
Yeah.
So if the cheapness is what you go for, and without any consideration of manpower needed to manage it and secure, then that might be some option for some people as well.
I agree. I have similar experience with Scaleway. It was when I compared to what it cost to do particular solution on Scaleway versus AWS, you can save up a lot of money on it using similar resources. So.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see when you say that clients want to move down. I wanted to say what kind of products do they have, right? Are they like, if you have a service in AWS, or using like EC2s there, and then I think you can move down kind of simple. But if you're using like Lambdas, maybe EC2, maybe CloudFront, they have some services, then it becomes much more complicated to move to European cloud provider, IAM, right? Big thing, right? I have not seen a European cloud provider with a good AI solution. Have you? No.
I haven't had the case to need to go deeply into it, so I don't have very strong opinion on it personally.
That's it's going to be interesting to talk with the company to see where they are. I mean, it's, I think, moving like EC2s. If you're running in AWS and you're running EC2, you can just get service at some other place, right? It's not really that complicated.
But what you're saying, that this is true, that the European cloud providers are usually much smaller, so you will need to be your skill set and your entry skill set to manage your resources on the cloud might need to be higher versus if you go to big player of one of the American ones. Because you have less managed services, you need to, more cases might be that you're gonna need to have your own Kubernetes cluster with Vault or with something running or other stuff running there, versus having everything in the managed resources from the cloud.
Exactly.
Different abstraction level that you operate on.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, like where you're entering, like the European cloud provider, where are they meeting the client? I mean, we can't compare like the VPCs on Hetzner with the VPC on AWS. It's not the same, right? They're completely different what you can do. On the paper, you can get like an IP address and maybe not even an app gateway can get that Hetzner. So there are big differences what you can compare, right? So
I like your point here, Mattias. So you would have businesses, like, who is using cloud providers? Those are the businesses that make money on something. So they need to reach their clients. It might be so that your client is a local government And then, yes, most probably that would be a driver for some to switch to the local provider because that will be mandated by the local government. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
But if you are a startup with any kind of global ambition, I mean, like running on Hetzner, like what your latency will be in other parts of the world, you will have no network distribution like Amazon offers you, like AWS or any other cloud providers. And then, like, we're talking compute. But forget about compute. Compute is easy. Like, everyone can do servers, containers, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Databases is hard. That's what's hard. And like, if you're hiring VPS, virtual private server, you do it all yourself. And like, just Google the AWS presentation from last reInvent about DSQL and the atomic clock synchronization that they have, like over a satellite network and a backbone AWS network.
Yeah.
It's a level sophistication.
But that's
above and beyond.
Yeah, but that's for
not everyone might need it. So, assess what you need and choose right for it. Because if you only operate, I don't know, in Sweden, in Germany, or somewhere locally in Europe, you don't need global exposition. And maybe it makes sense to, choose one of the, and you have enough skill set in your team to tackle one of the local clouds without all the resources. It might be cheaper and more reliant for you because they also, at least my experience, have quite good support or communities locally, usually where they're based. AWS, for example, okay, they have global community, which I think me and Andrey were part of or are part of from time to time. But it might be also worth to consider, okay, how much support you have, how much community you have locally, and how fast are they with the replying.
Getting like competence into the company as well, right? So we're gonna have two podcasts with two different European cloud providers, correct? So what are we gonna ask them, right? How are we gonna? Maybe we can get help from the listener as well to send in questions that we should ask the cloud providers. Andrey, you're big in AWS. You have a lot of questions coming from AWS. I might come with some like on-prem knowledge to also try to compare. Paulina, you're working with clients that are trying to migrate between these two worlds. I think we can bring a lot of questions to these providers and see what they're doing, right? See if how they can help and where did they match, right?
Yeah. So if you have any questions, we will try to release this episode today. Yes. Unless I'm dragging my feet, today being Wednesday, April 23rd. Hopefully you hear it today, which means that we will be doing the recording most probably in 2 weeks from now. Yes. Because we usually record on Fridays, but Friday in 2 weeks is holiday in many places. Yeah. So we're going to do it on Wednesday again. And send your questions on LinkedIn or any other means you have. And you know where we stand, right? So Paulina made herself heard. Like, I'm biased, so there is no surprises there. Mattias likes his bare metal servers. So we're actually coming from different perspective, where we stand. But if there are other questions you want us to ask those providers, like I wouldn't call them cloud providers, I would call them infrastructure providers.
It's already starting, right?
Yeah. We need to draw the line somewhere. So
okay. That's gonna be one of the questions. Like, what kind of provider are you, right?
Like, how do you call yourself?
Yeah.
But it would be very interesting to hear what kind of people comes to them, what kind of problems they solve to people.
Yes. Yeah. It will be.
And with that,
let's end this episode, and I will start editing to see if we can get it out as soon as possible.
Right. Thank you for tuning in, and we talk to you soon.
Thank you.
You have been listened to DevSecOps Talks. with Mattias, Andrey, and Paulina. For notes and information, please visit DevSecOps.fm. Thanks for tuning in.